What if I told you that love has the power to transform even the most wounded hearts? That behind every pain lies a chance for a fresh start? This is the story of Elena and Fred, a tale of resilience, empathy, and the unwavering belief that God always writes the best chapters when we trust in love. Join us as we uncover how they proved that nothing is impossible for those who love. In a charming town surrounded by majestic mountains and crystal-clear rivers winding through the valleys, a fairy tale atmosphere lingered in every corner. Among the cobblestone streets and red-roofed houses lived Elena, a young woman with expressive eyes and delicate features, carrying a profound secret. She didn't speak. Not because of any physical inability, but as a silent choice, a shield forged by the invisible wounds of her past. Elena had grown up in a small village at the foot of the mountains, where the seasons were vividly defined, and life followed a simple yet intense rhythm. The sounds of rushing streams and the dawn chorus of birds formed the soundtrack of her childhood. Her family, though modest, was a haven filled with love and solidarity. But everything changed one stormy night when a tragic accident claimed her parents, leaving her alone in the world. The shock caused her to retreat into silence, which became both a refuge and a barrier against pain and judgment. Choosing to rebuild her life was an act of immense courage. Every step she took was driven by an invisible strength, drawn from her most cherished memory, her parents' smiles. Despite her limitations, Elena was resourceful and ingenious, finding ways to communicate through gestures and expressions so rich they nearly made words unnecessary. Her journey led her to a grand mansion on the outskirts of the town, where her story would take an unexpected turn. Determined to start anew, Elena accepted a job as a nanny at the imposing estate. The property belonged to Fred Bennett, a young widower and heir to one of the area's largest fortunes. Fred was known for his elegance and emotional distance, traits that had only deepened after the death of his wife, leaving him to care for his son, Theo, a sweet child who had also stopped speaking after the tragedy. Elena arrived at the mansion on a cold day, with sharp winds that seemed to mirror the emotional chill of the household. She was greeted by Mrs. Carter, the stern and demanding head housekeeper, and shown to a modest attic room with a small window overlooking the neglected garden. Her main responsibility was to care for Theo, a task Mrs. Carter made clear would not be easy. When Elena first met Theo, he was sitting in a corner of the living room, surrounded by untouched toys, his distant gaze carrying the weight of the world. He seemed isolated, disconnected from everything around him. Elena tried to catch his attention with gentle gestures, but he remained aloof, as if closed off from any interaction. Later, through the housekeeper, Elena learned that Theo, like her, had stopped speaking due to trauma. He had lost his mother in a tragic accident, leaving deep emotional scars. Hearing this, Elena felt a pang of empathy. She recognized in Theo's eyes the same pain and emptiness she had carried for years. The connection she felt was immediate and profound. It was as if Theo mirrored her own journey, her silent battle with the wounds of the past. Determined to help, Elena grew more attached to the boy and began to observe his preferences and reactions, seeking ways to brighten his days and gain his attention. She rearranged his toys daily, placed small drawings or colorful objects near him, and made a point of always being present, even when he seemed to ignore her. With patience and determination, Elena began to find cracks in the wall Theo had built around himself. Every gesture, every attempt at interaction was a testament to her resolve to bring a spark of light into his life, even without words. As days passed, Elena brought a flute she had cherished since childhood to the mansion. During quiet afternoons, she played soft melodies in the garden, gradually catching Theo's interest. Slowly, he began to approach, first hiding behind the trees, then sitting beside her. One afternoon, Elena handed the flute to Theo, guiding his small fingers over the holes. He blew into it hesitantly, producing a clumsy sound, followed by a smile that lit up his face for the first time in months. Meanwhile, Fred, who often observed Elena from afar, began to notice something special about her. He saw her patience, her courage, and the gentle way she reached Theo, a feat no professional before her had ever achieved. During a casual conversation, he took the opportunity to ask more about her story. When he learned of the traumas she carried and how they had silenced her, Fred was deeply moved. He saw in Elena a strength that captivated him, a bravery to face the world despite her pain. However, the growing bond between Elena and Theo unsettled Mrs. Carter, who believed the young nanny was overstepping her boundaries. One evening, she confronted Fred, arguing that Theo needed specialists, not a mute who barely knew how to behave in society. Fred, torn between reason and his heart, decided to give Elena one last chance. He asked her to accompany Theo to a therapy session where she could demonstrate the progress he had made. During the session, Theo surprised everyone by making sounds and trying to imitate the tunes Elena played. The therapist, impressed, explained that Theo was responding to something that couldn't be taught from books: genuine affection. Over time, Fred began spending more time with Elena and Theo, often sharing meals or walking together through the mansion's gardens. He observed every interaction between her and the boy with growing admiration. Theo seemed to gradually rediscover joy, and Fred knew it was thanks to Elena. There was something in her that went beyond patience. It was a quiet courage, a kind of strength Fred hadn't seen in a long time. One afternoon, in a more relaxed moment, Fred asked to speak with Elena in the garden. He listened intently to her story and was deeply touched by the pain she had endured and the resilience she had shown. He felt he couldn't stand idly by after everything she had shared. Gently, he offered his help. He told her he could arrange for specialists to help her overcome her trauma and perhaps even recover her voice. "Elena," he said tenderly, "you've done so much for my son, bringing light to his life in a way no one else could. I couldn't be more grateful. But I want you to have the chance to heal as well, to live without this burden. Please, let me help you as you've helped Theo." At first, Elena hesitated. She didn't want to be a burden and wasn't sure if she was ready to revisit the pain that had silenced her. "I don't know, Mr. Bennett," she responded with a subtle gesture of refusal, but Fred smiled warmly. "Elena, please call me Fred, and it would be my pleasure. I'm not asking for anything in return. I just want you to have the freedom you're helping my son find." After a few moments of reflection and seeing the sincerity in his eyes, Elena agreed, albeit with some uncertainty. That conversation marked a turning point. It was the beginning of a beautiful bond between them, one that didn't need words to grow deep. Fred admired not only the way Elena cared for Theo but also her quiet strength, and Elena began to feel safer around him, allowing herself to dream of a future that once seemed out of reach. One evening, while walking through the garden under the moonlight, Fred confessed his feelings to her. He told her he didn't know what he would do without her presence and that, for the first time since losing his wife, he felt a reason to believe in the future. With tears in her eyes, Elena picked up her flute and played a melody filled with emotion, silently expressing that she shared his feelings. Their relationship was not without challenges. Fred faced pressure from family and friends who couldn't understand how he could fall in love with a simple nanny. But he was resolute. To him, Elena was worth more than any title or social position. As Elena attended the intensive therapy sessions Fred arranged, the early days were challenging. Revisiting the painful memories that had led her to shut herself off from the world was both frightening and exhausting. But over time, she began to trust the process. Each session was a step toward healing. She learned to express her emotions in new ways, gradually freeing herself from the chains of her past. Fred closely followed her progress, offering words of encouragement and a supportive presence whenever she needed it. One day, after months of therapy, Elena was sitting beside Fred in the garden. It was a peaceful afternoon, with the sound of birds filling the comfortable silence between them. Fred asked how she was feeling, and to his surprise, Elena responded with words. Her voice was soft, trembling, but full of intent. "Thank you, Fred, for believing in me, and for giving me a chance to start over." The words, simple yet profound, resonated like a sweet melody he would never forget. Fred remained still for a moment, his eyes welling with tears. "Elena," he said, gently holding her hand, "hearing your voice is a gift I never imagined receiving. You are incredible. Thank you for trusting me and for bringing so much love and hope into my life." That moment not only marked the return of Elena's voice, but also solidified the bond between them. As the days passed, the connection between Fred and Elena deepened, growing in trust and partnership, while Theo continued to thrive, inspired by the strength and dedication of his new family. Together, they were building a future that once seemed impossible, proving that love and understanding can transform any reality. Their wedding was a small yet deeply emotional and meaningful event. Theo, now speaking more often, was the first to greet Elena as his new mother, saying with a sweet smile, "I always knew you were our family." His words deeply moved Elena, who cried with joy as she embraced the boy. Fred couldn't have been happier. Experiencing that moment alongside his son, who was evolving day by day, and Elena, the woman who helped him find hope again, was more than he had ever dared to dream. During the ceremony, with his eyes shining with emotion, Fred held Elena's hands and made his vows. "Elena, you have transformed my life in ways I never thought possible. When I was lost, you brought light. When Theo needed hope, you brought love. Today, I promise to be for you what you have been for us, a safe harbor, a reason to smile, and a companion for every season of our lives." Elena, overwhelmed with emotion, responded with her still developing but sincere voice, "Fred, you believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. You gave me a family, a home, and a love I never thought I deserved. I promise to stand by your side and build a life filled with hope and happiness." When they both said "I do," the room filled with applause and tears, marking the beginning of a new chapter. Together, they transformed the mansion into a true home, brimming with laughter, music, and love. Years later, Theo became a talented musician, inspired by the afternoons Elena played for him in the garden. Fred and Elena remained united, showing that true love knows no barriers, social or emotional. This story is a powerful reminder that no matter how broken someone may seem, love, patience, and understanding can transform lives. Just as Elena and Fred found redemption and joy amidst pain, we can all believe in new beginnings. After all, God always places the right people in our paths at the moments we need them most. If this story touched your heart and you believe in the power of love to change lives, share it with someone special. Remember, God works through the love and empathy we show one another. Who knows? This story might inspire other hearts too. Thanks for watching.